The email from the county inspector sat in my inbox like a loaded gun. 5 years of collecting evidence, and finally, the trigger I'd been waiting for. Multiple code violations detected at 1450 Lake Pine Road. My name is Nora, and I co-own that lake house with my brother Frank. At least that's what the deed says. Reality tells a different story. You can't just show up whenever you want, Scarlett's voice crackled through my phone speaker. We have paying guests this weekend. Paying guests? I kept my voice neutral, hitting record on my phone. I wasn't aware we were renting it out. Oh, please, like you contribute anything to the property taxes or maintenance. Her laugh was sharp enough to cut glass. When you start paying your share, maybe then you can have an opinion. I said nothing, just like I'd said nothing for 5 years. Nothing when they changed the locks without telling me. Nothing when they painted over Mom's beloved blue shutters with an awful beige. Nothing when they hosted their endless parties that left the deck splintered and the neighbors complaining. Fine, I said. I'll come next weekend instead. Actually, we're booked solid through September. Keys jingled in the background. Maybe try again in winter? Oh, wait, the heating's broken. Shame you never chip in for repairs. I ended the call and opened my laptop, pulling up the secret folder I'd labeled tax records. 5 years of documented rental income, all flowing into their account. 5 years of safety violations, noise complaints, and unpaid contractor bills. 5 years of them treating Mom and Dad's legacy like their personal ATM. My phone buzzed. A text from my niece, Raylan. Mom's being awful again, isn't she? Remember when we buried that time capsule? Can we do that again sometime? I smiled, remembering 10-year-old Raylene carefully wrapping her favorite bracelet before we buried it under the old pine tree. Soon, I texted back. Things are about to change. Opening the county inspector's email, I began forwarding copies to my lawyer. Maximus would know exactly what to do with this ammunition. The foundation was crumbling, the wiring was shot, and the septic system was one flush away from an environmental disaster. All violations that could trigger immediate condemnation. My phone buzzed again. Scarlett posting another social media photo of their lake house, tagged with Sagnier's blessed lakefront living the dream. I took a screenshot, added it to my evidence folder, and closed my laptop. They thought my silence meant weakness. They thought my patience meant defeat. But Mom always said silence listens better than people think, and I'd been listening very, very carefully. The demolition order was just the beginning. Sometimes karma needs a little push, and I was done being the forgotten sister. The front steps creaked dangerously under my feet as I approached the lake house. Frank and Scarlett were at work, their Mercedes conspicuously absent from the driveway. Perfect timing. Using my original key, the one they thought I'd lost, I stepped inside. The smell of stale beer and cigarettes hit me immediately. Empty bottles littered the kitchen counter, and muddy footprints tracked across Mom's hardwood floors. Jesus, I muttered, pulling out my phone to document everything. The deck boards were rotting, with nails sticking up like tiny daggers. 3 broken windows had been hastily covered with duct tape and cardboard. My phone pinged with a notification. Another Airbnb review. Great location, but property needs serious maintenance. Host Sarah Lakes was unresponsive about the broken hot water heater. Sarah Lakes, Scarlett's fake profile name. I screenshotted, adding to my growing collection. Aunt Nora? I spun around to find Raylyn standing in the doorway, her backpack slung over one shoulder. Shouldn't you be in school? Half day. She kicked at a crushed beer can. I saw your car and I had to warn you. Mom and Dad are planning something big. What kind of big? They're listing the house for sale. Mom's already talking to realtors. Raylan's voice cracked. They're saying you abandoned your share, so they have the right to sell. My phone buzzed again. River, the county inspector, was calling. Hey, River, I answered, putting it on speaker. What's the verdict? It's bad, Nora. Like condemn the property bad. The foundation's compromised, electrical's a fire hazard, and don't get me started on the deck. One wrong step and someone's getting impaled. Raylan's eyes widened. Send me the full report, I said. And River? Thanks for doing this so quickly. Just doing my job. But Nora? His voice softened. All owners are legally liable if someone gets hurt. You might want to protect yourself. After hanging up, I turned to Raylan. Does your mom still throw those famous summer BBQs here? Yeah, there's one this weekend. Like 50 people coming. I nodded, taking more photos of the death trap deck. You might want to skip this one. Are you finally going to do something? Raylan asked, about how they treat you? Through the window, I watched a luxury SUV pull into the driveway. Scarlett home early. Get out through the back, I told Raylan. I was never here. As my niece slipped away, I heard Scarlett's heels clicking up the broken steps. I pulled out my phone one last time, opening my messages to Maximus. Time to move forward with the audit. And Max? Make it hurt. I slipped out the back door just as Scarlett's key turned in the front lock. Let her think she still had control. The house's days were numbered, and so was her reign over it. You've been busy, Maximus said, spreading documents across his office desk. 5 years of undeclared rental income, falsified property records, unauthorized commercial use of a residential property. I sipped my coffee, watching him sort through my evidence. Tell me it's enough. It's more than enough. He held up Scarlett's fake Airbnb profile. Identity fraud alone could. I don't want them arrested, I interrupted. I want them humiliated. Max leaned back, studying me with the same intense eyes that had caught my attention in law school. The audit will freeze their assets. The code violations will force immediate evacuation. But that 4th of July party they're planning? That could be the nail in their coffin. Through his office window, I watched fireworks light up the evening sky. Right now, Frank and Scarlett would be setting up their annual lakeside blowout, probably telling everyone how generous they were for sharing the family property. My phone buzzed with a text from River. Just drove by, at least 100 people on that deck. One wrong move. You should be there, Max said quietly. Document everything. 20 minutes later, I sat in my parked car near the lake house, watching drunk partygoers stumble across the rotting deck. Music blasted from speakers that made the windows rattle. Through my zoom lens, I caught Scarlett holding court, champagne in hand, bragging about their lakefront property. A tap on my window made me jump. Raylan, can I sit with you? She asked, sliding into the passenger seat. It's getting crazy in there. I handed her a bottle of water. Your mom's really outdoing herself. She invited the whole PTA board. Keeps talking about hosting more events once they upgrade the place. Raylan picked at her nail polish. Why don't you ever fight back when they say those awful things about you? I pulled out a folder labeled Final Grounds for Condemnation and placed it in her lap. I'm not fighting back, I said. I'm aiming lower. Raylan opened the folder, her eyes widening at the photos, the violations, the audit reports. Holy shit! Language, I said automatically. You're going to destroy them. It wasn't a question. Through the windshield, we watched Frank directing people onto the deck for a group photo. The wood groaned audibly even from here. No, I said, starting my car. They destroyed themselves. I'm just making sure they face the consequences. Can I help? I looked at my niece, really looked at her. She had Mom's eyes, that same quiet strength. Actually, I said, there's something you can do. Remember that time capsule we buried? I think it's time we dug it up. There's something in there I need. As I drove away, my phone buzzed with another text from River. Condemnation notice ready. Just say when. I smiled, watching the party's reflection fade in my rearview mirror. The time for silence was almost over. And here's our lakefront property, Scarlett's voice echoed through the PTA meeting room. Her PowerPoint slide showed a heavily filtered photo of the house. We're thinking of hosting the fall fundraiser there. Perfect venue, don't you think? I sat in the back row, recording everything on my phone. Actually, I stood up, making Scarlett freeze mid-sentence. I have some concerns about that. The room fell silent. Scarlett's perfectly maintained smile cracked slightly. Nora, I didn't know you were involved in PTA matters. I'm not. But as co-owner of that property, I need to inform everyone that it's not available for events. I pulled out my cease and desist letter. The house has been deemed structurally unsound. Co-owner? Someone whispered. Scarlett's face flushed red. This is ridiculous. Frank and I maintain that property perfectly. The county inspector disagrees. I handed copies of Rivers' report to the PTA board members.
And I can't allow anyone else to risk injury on those premises. You vindictive little, Scarlett started, but the PTA president cut her off. Mrs. Powell, is this true? The property isn't solely yours? Before Scarlett could answer, my phone rang. River. Nora, he said when I stepped into the hallway. The final inspection just finished. It's worse than we thought. The foundation's completely shot. How long? Days, maybe. One good storm and that deck could collapse into the lake.
I'm filing the condemnation order now. Back in the meeting room, Scarlett was desperately trying to salvage her reputation. It's just a misunderstanding. Nora's always been jealous. My phone pinged with a text from Ray Lynn. Mom's lying about you again. I found the old rental contracts in Dad's office, the ones with your forged signature. Want pics? Yes, I texted back. Send everything to Max. Another ping. Maximus had filed the audit report. Frank and Scarlett's accounts would be frozen by morning. The fall fundraiser will need a new venue, the PTA president announced, gathering her things, perhaps somewhere legally sound. As the room emptied, Scarlett cornered me by the water cooler. You think you're so clever, she hissed, but you're still that same pathetic little girl living off handouts. I smiled, thinking of the luxury development contract sitting in Max's office, waiting for my signature. The land alone was worth millions. You know what Mom used to say about karma? I asked her. It's patient. My phone buzzed again. Raylan found something else in the time capsule. Something Mom wrote about you years ago. You need to see this. I left Scarlett standing there, her perfect world crumbling around her designer heels. The forecast called for storms tonight, heavy ones. Sometimes karma needs a little rain to wash away the lies. The door to my apartment nearly flew off its hinges as Frank burst in, his face purple with rage. You froze our accounts? He slammed a stack of papers on my coffee table. The bank called this morning. Everything's locked. I continued typing on my laptop, not looking up. Interesting. Did they mention why? Don't play dumb. He paced like a caged animal. 5 years we've carried you. 5 years we've maintained that house while you contributed nothing. Now I looked up. Nothing? Let's talk about nothing, Frank. Let's talk about the $157,000 in rental income you and Scarlett pocketed. Let's talk about the contractors you never paid, the taxes you dodged, the safety violations you ignored. We deserved that money. We did all the work. Work? I opened my evidence folder. Like forging my signature on rental agreements or filing false insurance claims? That kind of work? He stopped pacing. You've been planning this 4 or 5 years. I closed my laptop. Every insult, every lie, every time you and Scarlett treated me like garbage, I documented it all. You're pathetic, he spat. Mom and Dad would be ashamed. Something snapped inside me. Don't you dare bring them into this. They left that house to both of us. You're the one who turned it into your personal cash machine. My phone buzzed. Raylan. Dad's with you? Mom's freaking out. She found the demolition notice. You can't tear it down, Frank said, reading the message over my shoulder. I won't let you. You don't have a choice. The condemnation order is final. I'll fight this, he threatened. I'll sue you for everything you got. With what money? I stood up. Your accounts are frozen. Your assets are under investigation. And that house? I smiled. It won't exist by next week. Frank moved closer, trying to intimidate me with his height. You're nothing but a bitter, invisible little girl who outsmarted you, I finished. Who watched and waited while you and Scarlett dug your own grave? You're right about one thing, Frank. I was invisible. That's what made this so easy. My phone rang. Maximus. Perfect timing, I said, answering. Frank's here. Want to explain the legal situation to him? Frank's face went from red to white as Max detailed the charges, the violations, the penalties. By the time the call ended, he looked deflated. You really want to destroy our family over this? He asked quietly. Family? I opened my door. You destroyed that years ago. Now get out of my apartment. After he left, I texted Raylan. You okay? Yeah. Found Mom crying in her closet. All her credit cards are declined. I looked at the family photo on my wall. Mom, Dad, all of us smiling by the lake. Sometimes, Mom used to say, love means letting go of what hurts you. I took the photo down and put it away. The demolition crew was scheduled for tomorrow, Labor Day weekend. The lake house driveway filled with luxury cars as Frank and Scarlett's guests arrived, dressed in summer whites and carrying expensive wine. Music thumped from newly installed speakers, probably bought with rental money they'd stolen from me. They haven't seen it yet, River said, standing beside me in the trees. We watched another group of guests walk past the bright orange condemnation notice taped to the front door without a second glance. My phone buzzed with a text from Max. Demolition crew confirmed for 9 a.m. tomorrow. You sure about this? Positive, I replied. Raylan appeared through the woods carrying a dirt-covered box, our old-time capsule. Found it, she whispered, right where we left it. Together we opened it. Inside, alongside Raylan's old bracelet, was a letter in Mom's handwriting. I'd forgotten she'd added something at the last minute. Read it, Raylan urged. To my children, I started, my voice shaking. Remember that doing the right thing is rarely easy, but integrity, once lost, is hard to rebuild. Choose wisely. Love, Mom. The sound of shattering glass came from the house, followed by drunk laughter. Through the trees, I watched Scarlett directing caterers onto the dangerous deck, ignoring their concerns about the creaking boards. The bulldozer's already here, River said, nodding toward the construction vehicle partially hidden behind the boathouse. Want me to give them a heads up? No, I said, checking my watch. Let them party. Right on cue, the bulldozer's engine roared to life. The music stopped. Guests froze mid-conversation as the massive yellow machine emerged, its operator wearing a county uniform. "What the hell is this?" Frank's voice boomed across the lawn. He ran toward the bulldozer, Scarlet tottering behind him in her heels. "Ma'am, sir," the operator called down. "This property has been condemned. All occupants need to evacuate immediately." "This is our house," Scarlet screamed. "You can't." "Actually," I said, stepping out of the trees with River, "it's our house." And yes, we can. The color drained from Frank's face as River handed him the demolition order. Guests began whispering, gathering their things, hurrying to their cars. "You're really doing this?" Frank asked, his voice breaking. "Right now?" "The party's over," I said, "in every way." Scarlet lunged at me, but Raylan stepped between us. "Mom, stop! Look at the deck!" As if on cue, a support beam cracked. The entire structure shifted visibly, sending the remaining guests scrambling. "Clear the area!" River shouted, his official voice carrying authority. "This structure's unsafe." As people fled, I stood my ground, watching Frank and Scarlet's perfect world crumble, literally and figuratively. The bulldozer inched forward, its shadow falling across the house like an executioner's blade. "Mom would hate you for this," Frank said quietly. I pulled out her letter from the time capsule. Actually, I think she saw it coming. The bulldozer's engine revved. It was time. "I'll sue everyone," Scarlet screamed, her mascara running as the bulldozer approached the house. "The county, the workers, you." She jabbed a finger at me. "This is illegal." "Actually," Max said, emerging from his car with the folder, "everything's perfectly legal. Would you like to see the paperwork?" Frank grabbed the documents, his hands shaking. "This isn't just a demolition order," he said, face paling further. This is a sale contract." "Signed 2 weeks ago," I confirmed.
The land's been sold to Green Valley Developments. They're building luxury, eco-friendly villas. The bulldozer's blade touched the front porch. Wood splintered. "You can't sell without our permission," Scarlet shrieked. "Actually, she can," Max explained calmly. "Your illegal rental operation and tax evasion triggered a clause allowing the compliant owner to act unilaterally to prevent further liability." The porch collapsed. Decades of memories crashed down with it. "How much?" Frank asked quietly. "Enough to retire on," I said, "which is more than you would have gotten after the IRS finished with you." A crowd had gathered. Neighbors who'd endured years of loud parties, contractors who'd never been paid, even some guests who hadn't yet left. They watched in silence as the bulldozer continued its work. "All those years," Frank said, his voice breaking, "you just sat there, letting us think we were winning." "No," I corrected him. "I sat there letting you think I was losing. There's a difference." The living room wall fell, revealing Mom's old piano, still sitting where we'd played duets as kids. Frank made a choked sound. "You want vindictive?" I continued. "I could have pressed charges, could have let them arrest you both for fraud. Instead, I'm walking away. The money from the sale will cover your tax debt. You get to start over. Clean slate." Another crash. The deck finally gave way, sliding into the lake like a sinking ship. "You're heartless," Scarlet spat. "No," Raylan stepped forward. "She's exact. Everything you took, she's taking back. No more, no less." The second floor collapsed inward. A cloud of dust rose into the summer air, carrying with it the ashes of our childhood, our inheritance, our broken family bonds. "Mom and Dad would have understood," I said softly to Frank. "They taught us about consequences, remember?" He said nothing, just watched as the house continued to fall. My phone buzzed. the developer confirming the wire transfer. 7 figures, enough to buy peace of mind. Feel better? Raylan asked, slipping her hand into mine as we watched the destruction. Not better, I said, squeezing her hand. Just done. The last wall fell. Where our lake house had stood for 50 years, there was now only rubble and possibility. Frank and Scarlett walked to their car in silence, defeated but alive. Sometimes revenge isn't about destruction. It's about reconstruction. Building something new from the ashes of what was lost. Behind us, the sun set over the lake, painting the dust clouds gold. The key turned smoothly in the lock of my new cabin. Small, sturdy, mine alone. Everything the lake house wasn't. Through the windows, I could see the water sparkling just like it used to, but without the weight of broken promises clouding the view. This is perfect, Raylan said, dropping her overnight bag by the door. She'd started spending weekends with me since the demolition. Frank and Scarlett hadn't objected. They were too busy dealing with the IRS. My phone buzzed. Max calling. The developers broke ground today, he said, and I just finished processing the last of the paperwork. You're officially free and clear. Thanks, Max, for everything. Have dinner with me tomorrow, he asked. To celebrate? I smiled. Yes, but not to celebrate. After hanging up, I joined Raylin on the back deck, this one built with fresh lumber and proper permits. She was holding a small box. I thought we could bury another time capsule, she said. Start new traditions. What should we put in it? She opened the box. Empty. Nothing from before. Just space for what comes next. From across the lake, we could see the construction vehicles where the old house had stood. Frank and Scarlett had moved to Arizona, as far from the water as they could get. Sometimes karma works like that, washing away what needs to go, leaving room for something better. Mom called yesterday, Raylan said quietly. She actually apologized, said she's starting therapy. Good. Dad, too. He asked if... She hesitated. If someday you might talk to him again. I watched a boat cut across the lake, leaving ripples in its wake. Someday, when it doesn't hurt anymore. We buried the empty time capsule under a young oak tree. No letters, no trinkets, no burdens from the past, just possibility. My phone buzzed again. River sending a photo of the development plans. The new buildings would be beautiful, sustainable, respectful of the land. Everything our old house had stopped being. You know what Mom used to say about ashes? I asked Raylan. What? If you wait long enough, they settle exactly where they belong. Raylan hugged me suddenly, fierce and protective. I'm glad you fought back, she whispered. I'm glad you showed me how. Inside, my new cabin waited, small but honest, like the truth I'd finally spoken. Tomorrow, I'd have dinner with Max. Next weekend, Raylan would bring her homework, and we'd sit on the deck, making new memories. And someday, when the hurt had faded enough, maybe I'd write Frank a letter. But for now, I watched the sunset paint the lake gold, just like it always had. Some things change, some things don't. The trick is knowing which is which, and having the courage to tell the difference. I'd lost a house, but found my voice. In the end, that was worth all the ashes in the world.